Thank you, Mel. I'm Emma. They made me put the name card, so like you guys, I feel like you also should. Let's first introduce myself. I'm a recruitment manager at AIM, Ambitious Impact. Some of you might know it as charity entrepreneurship, if you're floating around in the effective altruism space. We are an organization, we offer incubation programs for charities and for-profit companies. I've actually been through the incubation program myself, so I'm always happy to offer the experience of an incubatee. And I'm here to talk about the perspective of AIM on impact and impactful entrepreneurship.
Okay, is it working? Okay, good. Yeah.
Perfect.
Nice. Okay, and I'm Pablo. I was an entrepreneur, a for-profit entrepreneur for almost 20 years. And I still couldn't get enough satisfaction out of it. I actually sold one of my companies, so it was not that it was not successful. It was just that I did not really find it meaningful enough. And then I moved into not-for-profit entrepreneurship, and I've actually set up a foundation I'm going to tell you about called Ayuda Efectiva. So I've lived through many experiences, lots of thinking. I'm sure some people in the room will be doing some soul searching for different questions. What am I doing with my life? I've been through that, so happy to share my experience, and hope you'll find today's talk interesting.
So you've read the title, Creating Meaningful Change Through Entrepreneurship. Basically, what we want to take you through today is our experiences with struggling to find a really impactful career, how we found one, and how we're now helping other people to maximize their impact. There are a lot of paths, that's why to maximizing impact, that's why we're doing the presentation together. So we hope that for each one of you, there's some meaningful takeaway. As far as my journey with impact, when I was 17, I decided not to go to university because I thought that no traditional university would offer me an actually meaningful learning experience. I feel like there's a lot of talent and resources and time wasted in schools and universities, so I dedicated myself to innovating the education system. I worked for a few years running an education consultancy company, and I would advise schools and businesses on how to make their students and employees learn more efficiently and have more meaningful educational experiences. My thinking was that we waste so much resources and time and talent in school settings and in trainings. If we stop doing that, people will be able to pivot to more impactful careers because they'll have more confidence, they'll know better what they want to do with their life, and people that are more equipped to create change will create a better world. That was kind of my theory of change. But I didn't feel so satisfied. I loved my work in itself, but often I thought, am I really making a change here? Because first of all, the education consultancy space is quite a crowded space. There are a lot of people that feel like school sucks and it should be better. And then also, I sometimes thought, well, now I've helped the employees at this company to have a better HR, but have I really helped the people that are most in need? I would turn on the news and feel like everything I'd worked for that day just kind of felt not pointless, but not the most meaningful thing I could do with my time. So that's how I struggled to find impact.
In my case, I mentioned this is a younger me, second company, e-commerce. The first one was a digital marketing agency, which we sold after 6 years. I did a lot of public speaking. I taught classes at business schools. And I like the aspect of creating something where there was previously nothing. I think that's always amazing. I like the idea of entrepreneurship, creating wealth, creating jobs. I loved the connection, setting up a nice culture in the company. I could even kind of believe the mission, this was a gift. We sold gifts online. And I can tell you that when you sell gifts, you're actually selling the experience of the moment when somebody opens a gift. But I didn't really believe it. When people came and said, "Ooh, I loved your talk," in my mind, I was thinking, really? What am I selling here? So in early 2018, I did something very odd, which is stop and go home to figure out what I could contribute to the world. And that's what brought me here today. So as I mentioned before, I've been through a lot of thinking, and I'll be happy to share any of it with you. Let me see, is this working? Not really. What's going on?
Do you want me to try?
Okay, good.
Yes, I think you have to be very close. So, so as I said, our goal for today is to help you create more impact through which way you feel like is most suitable for you and is the way you want to pursue impact. So we'll take you through a few examples.
But before we get started, impact is, I'm gonna stand here just to make sure it works.
We'll do a little dance.
Yeah, impact is becoming kind of a meaningless word. You know, it's used all over the place. So before we look into what we believe is real impact, let's talk about pseudo alternatives. The first one would be what established companies do. And this is just a dead end. They do this kind of thing like announcing signing an agreement with an NGO as a great success. Wow, Telefónica signs a deal with Cruz Roja, and it seems like something has been done. This is like an announcement from politicians, really empty. The second typical trap is giving the green seal. Wow, your emissions are so low, to businesses that are already green by default. You know, it's like super easy if you do design thinking to be super sustainable. But a 5% improvement in a design thinking consultancy is meaningless compared to a 5% improvement in some really polluting industry, you know? So there are just so many traps with ESG, SRI, all the damn acronyms that are really, really empty. And that's why we come up with terms like greenwashing or whitewashing or all sorts of washing all over the place. This is one of my favorites. The final one is you mix social responsibility with kind of like team building, and you have software engineers making 150,000 euros a year that are collecting trash from a local park. It's good. I mean, it's obviously better than if that wasn't done, but come on. I mean, is that impact? You're going to really write down in a report and show it to your shareholders to prove how good you are? So please do not, whatever you do, just do not imitate these well-established companies. But hey, we are entrepreneurs and we think different. Yeah, now, or aspiring entrepreneurs, you'll tell me about who you are later. But do we actually think smarter? Well, sometimes we do, sometimes we probably don't. First of all, how do we get to think about impact? Why are you guys here today? I'm sure there are many reasons, but I would expect some of you to be thinking, gosh, all this effort in entrepreneurship, what for? I mean, is just profits, exit? Is that all my life is about, you know, making money and having an exit? Is there something else? Well, many people live through that, and they come to the conclusion, yeah, I actually want to have impact. I want to do something for the world. Second reason, maybe this happens to many people. Maybe you've sold your company. And when that happens, people think, and now what? And they really look at a void. They have no idea what to do with their lives. And the natural tendency is, oh, let's start another one. You know, that's what you've learned to do, and you keep doing it again. But in the end, you wonder, really? Third reason, very basic. We believe that we all have a part to play in improving the world, and we just want to do our part. Maybe some sustainability, whatever it is, but at least contribute a little bit. And then the promise of things like impact investing, which is, wow, how about doing well while doing good? Wouldn't that be amazing? Being able to have it all. You know, like I have this job, I love it, I'm making tons of money, and I'm actually improving the world. So that's like the sales pitch of every startup in Silicon Valley is how they are changing the world, and it's kind of this. But of course, it's fiction. You know, it's not really this. It's really, really hard to have impact. It can be really, really frustrating when you're really trying to have impact. What do we tend to do once we are unsatisfied for any reason and think, hey, I would like this impact thing? Well, first of all, we tend to look around and see what's needed. And of course, in cities like Barcelona, there's a lot of need. However, I want to throw a first key idea your way. Standard social entrepreneurship, just fixing social problems around you, or social investing, or even volunteering. They are awesome. I mean, the world is better when these things happen. But these kind of things, for example, never reach the poorest people in the world, the people who need our help the most. Because we're looking in our cities, we're looking at tremendously rich countries around us, and the problems we have are just in a different category. I always throw this question at audiences. Should all human lives be worth the same everywhere in the world? If we really, really believe that, when we think about impact, these people should be top of mind for us, and not what we see, not what's close. Second way we tend to approach impact. Let's brainstorm potential causes. You know, we're smart people, we're innovative. Let's come up with a good idea. Well, second key point I would like you to take away is the world is full of problems, but not all problems are the same. So, you know, that brainstorming, it may be absolutely blind to what the world actually needs. For example, there's what I call the curse of top of mind. You know, if I ask people, oh, what are the top problems in the world right now? Climate change, sustainability, I'm sure that's going to make the list. But I encourage you to think about diminishing returns. How many people are thinking about this right now? How many millions and billions are being invested in these kinds of projects? How much is your particular project going to move the needle here? I bet way less than in more neglected problems. Second thing that's usually top of mind, the industries we see. So we think about fashion. You know, oh man, fashion is so polluting. We really should get into sustainable fashion. Or plastic straws, or who knows what. But the question is, what are we not seeing? What are other problems that are just invisible to us? Third, and I've seen this very often, in the startup world, there's a lot of tech, and there are many people out there with technology solutions in search of a problem. You know, I've got this, like, it used to be Web3, it used to be Bitcoin, that's going to be AI, whatever, and I'm sure this has to be super useful for NGOs. But that's not how the world works. Many of the world's most pressing problems are not a problem of technology. They're much more simple, and we'll talk a bit about them. I said that not all problems are the same. And I always like to show this map, which is one of the most chilling maps I've ever seen. This is the percentage of women who have seen at least one of their children under 5 die. And that dark color is 50%. I mean, can you imagine a world where 50% of the mothers you know around you have lost one of their child? Well, that's the world people live in. So when we think about categories of problems, I think I always try to keep this map in mind. Those are real problems. That. And to be honest, not really the kind of thing that worries us in countries like Spain. Okay, next way of approaching problems. We're entrepreneurs. I've come across an idea. We get so excited about new ideas. We think that ideas change the world, the power of ideas. Well, it may be a little bit harder, you know, because the third key takeaway is that there are many ways of helping, but they are not all as effective. Actually, some of them are just a huge waste of money. Amazing idea, the play pump. Trevor Field, 1989, he came across this idea. Let's have a carousel that kids can play with, and it will actually deliver clean water. So we're having kids that don't have toys that are going to be able to play, and the village is going to have clean water. 9,800 of these were installed across Africa because they got funding from everybody because it was such a great idea. Small issue, this didn't work. Day 1, super fun. Day 2, since you have to push it all the time to get clean water, it's not that fun. Day 4, no kids are seen. The pictures were taken, but the kids are no longer there. And it was actually the women that had to push this, and it was less effective than a traditional hand pump. Great idea, but it was just not effective. In fact, when we look at the research, and this is a super silly, simplified graph, but this is the truth, we find that some ways of helping are 100 times more effective than others. So just choosing the right idea may just not be the right way to achieve impact. Okay, this is the gloomy picture, but there's hope, and I'll let Emma tell you about it.
That's my part. So I get to bring the good news because there are ways in which, not like impact is doomed. You just have to be careful for certain kinds of impact. So I want to take you through not how we usually think about impact, but how we think you should be thinking about impact. Oh yes, that is right. We had like a new idea to shift the slides. I thought we didn't do that. At AIM, where I work, we care about impact that is a whole list of difficult words, but I'll take you through it. We care about impact that is measurable, targets a neglected problem, is counterfactual, scalable, and cost-effective. In essence, that means that we care about maximizing impact. We don't want to do just a little bit of good because it makes us feel good, or because actually a little bit of good can be good, but we want to do the most good that we possibly can. And for that, we need to have measurable impact because we need to know what we're actually doing. Then we need to find those neglected problems that Pablo talked about. And we need to have counterfactual impact, which means that if we don't do it, nobody else is going to do it. Because we could walk into a crowded room trying to add on just another idea of a charity, a problem that's already been solved by 100 charities, but that's not an effective use of resources. Going to the last one, cost effectiveness. It's not about being cheap, but it's about spending as little money as possible on each individual that we want to help so that we can help more individuals. It's about not spending too much money just because we've gotten the funding, or just because this year the philanthropy world is especially interested in this kind of disease. So we have money, let's just spend it. No, we want to be cost effective and then scalable. We want to help as many people as we can. So even if we find a great neglected problem that can help 1,000 people tops, we're not interested because we want to help millions of people. So we focus on problems that can potentially reach and help millions of people and animals. So we have big ambitions. How do we do this exactly? Our number one way to maximize our impact is to start charities. We're in the business of starting highly impactful charities. And usually they're started by people that have never ever considered starting a charity. So if this has never crossed your mind, you might actually be a great candidate for one of our programs. Why do we think setting up a charity or starting a charity is so impactful? Well, because most people think that it's impossible. So if we can find people that believe it's possible, we have a small pool of highly talented people. Then, like Pablo explained, most charities are actually started from a passion, a personal interest, which is good, but it's not great because it usually doesn't reach the people that need us the most. And then positive flow-through effects. Usually when you start a charity in a space that is completely neglected, you call for attention in that space. Other people all of a sudden start paying attention to that disease you're curing, or they become aware of a problem that you've identified. So it's not only your organization. Usually if you step into not a crowded room, but an empty room, other people will follow and will also try to solve that neglected problem. So, sounds great, but what is that exactly? Like, what do we do? We have a research team that spends the whole year finding high impact charity ideas. So they look at the global burden of disease. What are people dying of at the highest rate in several countries? What are problems that are neglected and solvable? And what are their cost-effective solutions? They pair that together and recommend charity ideas. Then we select talented individuals for a 2-month training program in which they find a charity idea, a founder, and at the end of the program, seed funding. So most people come in, usually have never considered themselves as a charity entrepreneur, and they walk out with a founder, an idea, and money for the first year, which is quite uncommon because it's kind of like a VC investing style, but for charities. To give you an example and to kind of make this a bit more concrete, these two people are Lucia and Jack. They started a super impactful charity called LEAP, the Lead Exposure Elimination Project. Who really cares about lead in paint? Well, Lucia and Jack didn't really when they came in. They're a doctor and a consultant who were recruited for our program. And when they came in, didn't know anything about lead in paint. Actually, this idea was like the least popular one that year in 2020. Like, we begged people to please consider it, but people were like interested in the other more shiny charity ideas. In the end, we got them to seriously consider it and start the organization. We're very happy that happened because right now, the organization works with government to introduce legislation that prohibits lead in paint, which is still a lot, like that's not in the paint that you see here on the walls, but in a lot of countries, it is still the case. And it's very dangerous, especially for children. So eliminating lead from paint and creating regulations to do so improves the health and well-being and future income as well. So through the work of LEAP, now an estimated 46.6 million fewer children are exposed to lead in paint. And then a bit of a nerdy, that's an estimated cost effectiveness to date of $5 per DALI. I can explain later in the networking what that means exactly, but basically it's like a crazy cheap solution to a very big problem. LEAP is now working in all these countries over the world, reaching all those 46.6 million children. And what I just said about positive flow-through effect and directing more money into a space is what happened here. So a doctor and a consultant that didn't really care about lead paint have now massively increased the global funding that's available for lead elimination. So when they started, there was a yearly global budget of $15 million, which if you have that in your bank account, it's quite great for you personally, but like on a global scale, that is nothing. Right now, because of their work, that budget has increased to 104 million between now and 2027 by the world's biggest philanthropic organizations. That's huge because it's largely benefiting LEAP and their work, but also other organizations have emerged and are working alongside them to protect more children from disease and death. LEAP is not the only successful charities that we've started. In the last 5 years, we started 40 charities that altogether have raised $35 million from some of the world's leading philanthropic organizations. The logos here, for example, Open Philanthropy, GiveWell, Founders Pledge. And together, they implement programs for over 35 million people and 1 billion animals. So 40 small charities are creating all that impact. I think that's quite amazing. And we don't only just start charities, because we realize that not all people are interested in running a nonprofit organization. Some people are very entrepreneurial, but more into for-profit entrepreneurship. So we're starting a new program in January that's called AIM Founding to Give, for people that want to start a for-profit organization to then donate 50% of their personal exit monies above 1 million. So how would that work? Or why do we even think it's successful or impactful? First of all, because we want to target those people that are very entrepreneurial and talented, but wouldn't be interested in starting a charity because of their previous experience. Maybe they have a certain edge for fundraising, and they just don't want to get in the business of a charity. Then, one of the biggest bottlenecks for highly impactful charities is mid-stage funding. So we can give charities their first year of funding. Usually they find their second and third year. But then once a charity is highly impactful, but it's not a startup anymore, they are struggling to find funding. And we think that getting more money into this space will be a solution to that. So the donations are very heavily tilled. Like I said, we ask people to start this company and then pledge to donate 50% of their personal exit money. So after they sell their company, above 1 million. You take the first million, that's yours, and then you split between donating and keeping the money to yourself. You only need one company that does really, really well for that to happen. We're basically looking for the new Dustin Moskovich, who is the founder of Facebook. He's also the founder of Open Philanthropy, which is the leading philanthropy organization in this effective giving space that is responsible for about 1/3 of all donations in this space. So we basically need just one more of this person to have massively more impact. What is the program exactly, if you're interested? We would do co-founder matching again. We have already identified pool of hugely talented individuals that you would potentially be co-founding with, and then we ask you to do that pledge.
Okay. But maybe some of you will think, hey, I don't want to start a charity. Hey, I don't want to start a new company. Maybe you guys have your own company and you actually love compression algorithms and that's what you do well, or widgets, who knows what, So, does it mean I want to have social impact? I have my business. I love my business. I know how to do what I do. I also want impact. I don't want to change everything for impact, and I'm sure some people in the room will think that way. Well, the good news, not before the good news. The manual. What does the manual tell you? What those established companies I told you about do? First of all, you got to do something that's kind of related to your business, because that's where you're unique. You need to do it in the markets in which you're present and involving your employees. But hey, you do compression algorithms, how can compression algorithms really, I'm sure there are good uses of it, but is it going to change the world? Well, reality does not agree with the manual, and reality says that your business may just have nothing to do with the world's most pressing social problems, and that is not an issue, I've met so many entrepreneurs that struggle to find, we need to find something social to do. What can we do that's kind of related? And in the end, they do things that are just plain silly because nobody said that your business has to do with really, really, really addressing the world's most pressing social problems. You may be doing something that's valuable for your customers, and that is great. Just keep doing that. Second, your market is probably one of the richest countries in the world. Unless you're exporting tech to sub-Saharan Africa, usually your customers are in Europe, in the US, in the UK, Australia, just rich countries. Third, your team are super qualified for the job they do, but they probably have no idea whatsoever about how to help effectively. We tend to think that helping and having social impact is kind of easy, it's what you do with your heart. No, it's super hard. It's super hard. Effective stuff like changing legislation on lead painting in Malawi, that's not easy. That's super tough. Distributing medicine to millions of children and making sure the medicines are there on the day they have to be put into children's mouths, that's super tough. It's like a top-class logistical challenge. So this is not about accompanying and being nice. Having real impact is super tough, and your business may just not be suited for that. But that is not a problem. You do not really have to change everything. The good news is that your company can have a huge impact regardless of what you do, just by supporting with a part of your revenue the most effective charities like the ones incubated or started at AIM. And it's that simple. You can actually do this and you can know that you're having impact and do well while you do good. But the right way, instead of playing and trying to do things that you don't really know anything about. We have great evidence about what the most effective programs in the world are. This is not guessing. This is not about, let me read about some projects. Ooh, that one sounds really compelling. That's crap. That's the way of wasting money. That's what we usually do. But there's actually independent evaluators that go through the figures. When I say they go through the figures, that one GiveWell, they put in 40,000 hours a year to find the best ways of helping others. What is the most effective things you can do to help the poorest people in the world today? What does the data and the evidence say? And there's the same for helping animals in factory farms. There's the same for climate change and other causes. So we know what the most effective things are. We just have to choose them. For example, to make this very concrete, we know that the cheapest ways of saving lives today, and this is crazy. You can save lives, and there's a price tag to that. Am I saying that there's a price to a human life? No, but actually we know how much it costs to save one. Well, these crazy cheap interventions, I'm not saying that it costs 7 euros to save a life. No, I'm saying that these are treatments with which you protect thousands of people, and we know that for every 4,500 to 5,500 euros that you spend on these, you're saving a life of the most fragile child that would have died because of these stupid diseases. They don't really require research, they don't require tech, they don't require a new brilliant idea. It's just that they don't have the resources. Basically because we are thinking about other stuff. But there's huge impact to be had just by supporting the most effective programs. And if you do it, there's also an additional benefit. There's no other expense that saves you 40% in taxes. This is like a super expense. and you let the specialists do the part that you don't do good. Because you're great at compression algorithms, but there are people that are great at doing this. And if you do it, and you give from 0.1% of your revenue, we can even certificate it. So you can actually prove to the world, not that you're good, but that you're doing something good, which is what's actually important. This is a real example. Languagecourse.net. Okay, do language courses change the world? I mean, I'm sure Daniel, who created the company, he could give you a story of how they connect people, blah, 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 blah. But it's his business. But this guy, last year, he gave 9.3% of his revenue. That's a super high bar. I'm not saying we should do that. But this guy alone with his company has already saved 50 lives. 50 lives. So 50 children would have died if it were not because this guy, whose business is language courses, connecting people to language courses all over the world, this guy has decided to devote part of his revenue to something that's really impactful. He single-handedly has helped more than 32,000 people. And we know exactly how, because he's protected children from malaria, he's vaccinated kids that would not have been vaccinated otherwise, and we have all the figures that actually prove it. So we can say that he actually gave the money, he gave it effectively, and we can calculate his impact real time. And he can share this with the world. Yes. Where to go from here?
Yeah.
Yep.
So this is probably a lot of information. So we want to leave you with some tangible steps to leave the room with and maybe think about as you are on your way to networking and then home. So I lied when I said that AIM has 2 programs. We actually have 3. So I have a third one specifically for grant makers. So people that either own or run foundations and have large amounts of money to grant. We can help you in our program to do that more effectively and impactful. And we also have funding circles in which grant makers get together and make funding decisions together to even increase impact by reaching like higher amounts that charities might need at that time. Then we have our program that I've talked about most for people that want to start a charity. And AIM Founding to Give, our brand new program for people that want to start a company that has positive flow-through effect and then donate their money to massively help the space overall. It's going to die on us right before the end. So what are next steps? You can subscribe to our newsletter. We'll have a code at the end with all the, like a QR with all the links. Subscribe to our newsletter to know when our programs open next, so you always know when you can apply again. AIM is actually hiring, so if you feel like I don't want to start a charity or start an organization, but I want to work for the org that starts them and incubates them, we're hiring for 4 roles: an ops manager, communications manager, philanthropy director, and program manager of our incubation program. But you can find more on our website and the links. And then also read our book. We have a handbook that's called How to Launch a High Impact Nonprofit. It's there in the back. Actually, I brought a few copies. It's also available for free in PDF format if you prefer to read online. But I am going to move soon, and I don't want to drag those books to my next place. So if you're interested, feel free to grab a book so I don't have to drag them home. And then Pablo has some takeaways. Yeah, so for the compression algorithm crowd, if you want to stick to your business and still have impact, you can check our options for companies, and then we have this seal that certifies your impact. You can check out how much you can actually, the impact you can have individually, and we actually calculate the impact of every donation before you make it. So you can just play around with the figures. What happens if I give 110? What happens if I give 120? What happens if I put it into this program or these others? So you can just simulate a donation to see what an amazing impact you can have when you actually choose only the most effective programs. And we also have a way of giving socially. So we have what we call giving teams. And we have giving teams in companies. We have giving teams in the football championship organized within the company. We have people that have used this for the wedding. So teams are a great way of making giving social and actually adding up the impact that people can have together. I think that was it. Thank you. We'll take questions now.